I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how much it costs to build these elite level tiny boats that we've been building. I just built 2 back to back, one by myself, one with my crew, and those are both the most expensive boats that I have ever built personally in terms of stuff in. And I want to explain to you the difference between what I think is really part of the boat and what I think is not, but they all jumble together to make the price range. I did do a cost analysis on the Lund DV aluminum hull boat that I did a long time ago, like a few years ago, maybe over a few years ago. And that one was between 3 and 4 grand, maybe a little bit more than that, but it wasn't much more than that if you went and tackled it yourself, like all parts in. And these boats, definitely there was a giant shift in terms of material. I want to go through them line item. First for this last boat that I ran, and then for the Alumacraft V14 that I did. I want to give you guys both the cost breakdowns and how things shifted to get the entire end product. Also, I will leave all of this right down here in the description area below. You just got to click to expand it. If you're watching on a PC, it's a little click to expand arrow, and if you're watching on a phone, it's a little bit more discreet, but you still can expand the description area. You can see all of it, line item verbatim right there if you're looking at what you need for a project like this. And these projects can all be bought on our store. In fact, this boat that I'm going to talk to you about right now, all those parts for that boat were from our store. The blue, what I nicknamed the Blue Diamond, it was this last boat. I'm not even sure what that boat was called, but it was a 16.5 foot DV aluminum hull that we tried to deck out to the max with the budget we had. Just keep that in mind. All right, for the aluminum kit, the framing, the lids, the welded boxes, the Livewell, the cooler, you know, the aluminum sheets, the rivets, and the powder coat, all of that together was right around $4,500 for framing. That was estimated by Nate, who supplied all that stuff. Additionally, for wiring, we're talking about like everything. We're talking about 6 gauge duplex, 8 gauge duplex, 10 gauge duplex, 12 gauge and 14 gauge duplex. All those were put into there, and we had to get significant amounts of spools. Obviously, the thicker the wire, the more expensive it was per part, and there was a lot of wire. I couldn't even tell you how many feet of wire were in there, but it was a lot. Then you gotta worry about marine connectors, heat shrink tubing, fuses, the breakers, the battery selector switches, the wire ties, the looming, the braided expandable sleeving, the switch panel itself, which was a more advanced switch panel. Generally, I kind of fabricate one. That one was pre-made and it had its own dry hatch lip. That was just like a drop-in panel. That was on the upside. Yeah, 2 fuse blocks, 1 6 gang, 1 12 gang. I had a few fuse holders, all that stuff, including the lights, some of the LEDs. Not the LED kits that lit the whole thing, but there was LEDs and other stuff inside the compartments themselves. All that was like right around $1 grand. It was a lot of money. Let us not forget the really implicit, silent, expensive killer, latches for the boat hatches. So these cantilever latches, there were 8 of them, and it was like $240 for like latches. So that was expensive. We stuck Gatorskinz Nonskid in a lot of the critical places that were going to take the most abuse because that stuff's really tough. So we can estimate between another $100 to $200 for that. We had high output underwater LEDs, bilge pumps, 3 kits of pour foam that are about $100 a piece. We had cup holders. We had 8 sheets of that snow camo hydro turf. That was probably about $1,000 or so. That's a lot of sheets of hydro turf. We had a $350 flow right kit. Premium flow right kit from our site. We dropped that thing in there. That was cool. We had some custom nav lights. He had the shark navs in the front. Those were pretty awesome. We had the CMC power tilt. That was expensive. We also added quite a few decals to the boat and just like random hardware. Stainless steel hardware and other associated fasteners. We definitely absolutely spent a bare minimum of $100. Likely more. We estimated the whole cost there to be right at or over $9 grand. So it's just under or just over $9 grand, give or take. That was for raw materials into that boat and not the external mods. I consider external mods anything that you can drop into the boat and take out and put into another boat. So it's a part of the boat as long as it's there, but it's not actual materials like raw materials in that are like irreplaceable. So pretty much the framing, the decking, and the wiring, and the Livewell plumbing, like the plumbing, all those associated, you know, the lights, all those associated components in the boat are like raw materials in the boat that make the boat what it is, like from the ground up the hub. That's the part that I'm the most concerned about because everything else is just an add-on. So we're talking about the external add-ons, the external mods, the external accessories that also made the boat pop. So for instance, we had a 4-bank Minn Kota Precision onboard battery charger. That's a very, very popular charger out there. That was right around $400. We also had 4 batteries. 4 batteries. That's a lot of batteries. And at least 1 or 2 of those are AGM batteries. So we're looking at $600 minimum, maybe more. I know we had at least 1 AGM in there, and I know there was some lead acid. If there were 2 AGM in there, that was about $300 a piece. There were substantially more, so we're maybe looking more like 800. 600 low end, 800 high end for the batteries. And then we had 3 7-inch Humminbird Helix G3N fish finders. One was just a standard chirp fish finder that we just ran specifically for maps. You just had it for maps. It wasn't connected to transducer or nothing. It was just specifically a chirp GPS for maps. The other one was side imaging, a Mega SI, and the front one was a Mega DI that connected to a motor guide, 80-pound thrust, I think an XI3 trolling motor. And the XI3 is actually the cheapest spot lock trolling motor you can get. That's controlled by a remote. It has a foot pedal, but the foot pedal sucks. Sucks really bad. But the remote's awesome. In fact, Nick, a buddy of mine and also a partner here with Tiny Boat Nation, his V18 that I redid for him, that one has an XI3, and it handles that big bass boat pretty well. So it's going to handle this boat pretty well. On top of that, we got a Humminbird to motor guide adapter so that the Mega DI from that transducer would work with the trolling motor. So pretty sweet setup. What did it run there? $5 grand estimated total for all external mods and accessories in. The grand total for this boat was, we have it estimated at $14,039 total cost for everything in. That's not to include the boat and the motor, which I think he got the whole thing for $2 grand. I wish I would find a boat like that for $2 grand. He had that motor on there, and that was a pretty robust, you know, those old Johnsons, those old Everroots, those things do quite well. So that was there. So a little bit of money saved on keeping the 2-stroke. A little bit of money saved on getting the boat. Here's the cool thing about that. Here's the cool thing about that, though. A lot of people are like, why would you throw that money inside a little tin boat? What a waste of money. All the materials in the boat are worth more than the actual boat. Well, just so you know, he went to like his insurance company to get it appraised, because that was a big, huge reason why we helped him out with the boat anyways, because the boat got ruined and stuff wasn't done right before. So he took all the receipts, all the work. He showed us the videos to his insurance agency of what we did, and they appraised it for, I think, 27 grand. Like, a lot. Like, it was appraised for a lot. Like, so the boat is worth almost 30 grand. Appraised at just under 30 grand. And that's pretty good, because that to me is definitely a $30,000 boat. If you were going to go to a showroom and try and get something like that, everything it has in it, all the stuff it was able to handle, everything it was able to do, that boat is easily 30 grand. So, now for the Alumacraft V14, which is cheaper in some areas and much more expensive in other areas. But, you know, this is like my favorite boat, and maybe the best boat I ever built for the 14-foot platform. In fact, it is the best boat I've ever built. I mean, and there was a lot of reasons why it was built this way. I haven't done a reflection video on the Alumacraft V14, but I'm going to do it here. I mean, you're going to kind of get a little glimpse of it here, but I'm going to really do a reflect video. But so, a fairly different shift, like a dynamic shift in the cost here. So, for the Alumacraft, it was still about $1 grand for electric. There's about, I have it estimated here at $1,019 for pretty much everything. That boat had a lot of wiring. That boat probably had more wiring than the Blue Diamond that we just talked to you about. That boat had so much wiring. God, it had so much wiring. And then, I'm not going to laundry list the electric to you again, but pretty much the same thing we stuck into that boat, we stuck into this boat. For like the framing and the deck, it was a different system. So this is where like he saved money, because for Nate's drop-in dry hatches and all the associated components that go with that, that is substantially more money because of like how it's made. That they're like precision made, welded and powder coated hatches that you're just able to drop in once you have the boat framed. You can drop them in there, and then that's like the hatch. Plus he had the welded box for like the liner, and so all aluminum welded dry hatch liners and lids. That was expensive for the Blue Diamond. We substantially cut costs down here because we used my Gen X system, which is my version of non-welded aluminum lid systems, where I figured out a way for anybody with a vision and a dream to make their aluminum lids without having to use a welder. And it's a pretty seamless, flawless look. You don't see too much. For all anybody else knows, they're welded. But it's just rivets and brackets and tubing and sheet metal, and you really get a good outcome. So I'm pretty happy about the Gen X lid system. And then there was the Gen X framing, which is supposed to be my lightest dry hatch framing ever, where we kind of get rid of the whole catch lip. It's not a full bleed out system, but it is a water diversion lip, and it works really well. I have it on my boat. It's completely outfitted on my boat, and it works fantastic in terms of diverting water away and out and keeping them out of the hatches and the lids. Because we're using lighter aluminum for this boat, because it was a lighter boat and it was a smaller boat, and because there were certain things that have to come with a smaller boat like this, like literally the 14 could have fit inside, that other boat could have 8 in this boat. So we had to use lighter framing in general. We ran all 1/16 inch aluminum sheet metal, where the other one, there was like 0.09 and 1/8 inch sheet metal for a lot of the boat. But that was a lot bigger boat. It can take a lot more weight, and it was going to be distributed a lot better versus this boat. We used all 1/16. So if stuff was cheaper, I mean, the fasteners and hardware were still around $200 for everything. We had channel lid supports for a lot of the larger hatches because it was 1/16, and we wanted to make sure that didn't bow in. We bought a little bit of 20-ounce carpet, about $150 for the carpet to carpet the 4 sides, the front and back corners, the corners. Carpeted them because that's where we would lay the rod butts. I never explained that into the video. Kind of annoys me, I forgot. But we did that because the rills and the lures would not mess up the carpet. It's snagless, 20-ounce carpet. Honestly, carpet is the toughest thing out there. Way more tough than the turf. But we turfed everything else because it was, turf is just much more comfortable and it's much more aesthetically pleasing. Now, due to the pictures that we based buying the turf off of, the picture's a little bit misleading. The turf came in a lot lighter than we expected it to be, and if we'd have known it was going to be so light, we would have got the darker stuff because it would have been the right color, but that was just whatever it was. We had already bought it. We didn't want to turn back on it. We also used the Blacktip snow camo foam that was plentiful on Amazon until like the whole stuff happened and everything started becoming scarce. We had some Amazon like EVA foam, like the gray stuff that we use in the underlids, because it wasn't high quality like the Orthodek stuff that we stuck on top. But we did use some of that to address the underlids. We tried to address all the spots. And we ended up getting a lot of Blacktip and addressing the entire thing. So there was also Gatorskinz and Nonskid and all the major compartments and on the floor, on the bow, and on all the sides where it was crucial. But pretty much the entire boat was either foamed or skinned or carpeted. There was really not a whole lot of bare surfaces left. So we had cam latches, and we had a lot of cam latches. There was like a lot more cam latches. There's a lot more lids, and so it was closer to like $500 for like the the latches. It was a lot. I don't know if it was that much, but it was over $3,000, and it was closer to $500. I'm sorry, it was way over $300. It was closer to $500 once we bought all the latches. We bought a lot of latches. There was a lot. Then there was the struts and the joints. That was another thing. We didn't stick struts in the other boat because we felt it didn't really need them. That was at John's discretion. We had an all HDPE, really super robust, thick Livewell box. Not the aluminum one, but we had a really robust, thick HDPE box. And we had the Fluorite Premium kit, same kit. But we upped that and we put an oxygenator in there, and that really kind of put that kit on the next level in terms of what it's able to do and how it's able to take care of the fish over time. The through-hole fittings, the bilge, the hose, the pumps, all that stuff. Right around $5,683. So, mid 5K to build a boat like that. And considering everything that's in that boat and what it's able to do, I'd say that is a freaking steal. If you're going to try and build an elite level tiny boat in a small boat like that, where you had horsepower and boat length caps, or if you just wanted a 14-foot boat for whatever reason, that was a boat I wanted to build forever. This is a boat I had tried to build before, but failed to build because I ran into problems with the previous owners during who and what and the time level and who was going to pay for what. And so that was, I never was able to actually complete it the way I was going to complete this one. I talked to this guy for a while and vetted him out to see if he was going to flake on me the way some of the other people did. Not everybody. I want to clear it up. Not everybody was a flake that I ever dealt with. I kind of made that seem a little dramatic. Really, there's only about 4 people, and 2 of them were good until they weren't. But there's just 2 people that were really terrible. I'll talk to you about that in a later video. But the majority of them are okay, but some of them come out really stellar. So with the Lund came out stellar. The V18 tracker, for the most part, up until the very, very end, came out stellar, and that was okay because the owner was there helping me rush the V18, and he was cool with it when it left, and we're going to fix those things later, so it's all good. And then, obviously, this V14 I feel really good about. I feel really good about that, and I feel really good about my boat. So, like, the 4 most stellar boats I think that I have all ran those systems. I'm just saying, between $5 and $6 grand will build you a really, really nice elite level tiny boat from like the ground up in terms of materials. If you want an ultralight boat, if you need an ultralight boat, for boats that are generally 16 foot and like above, you don't really need to build an ultralight boat. And that's, maybe you're looking a little bit more towards robustness and stability. And that's where like Nate's hatches really thrive. They do really, really good in a bigger boat. And so you just got to slim it down a little bit. And so the Gen X kit really helps slim down cost, and also slim down the weight, and that allows to stick a butt ton of crap inside this boat without it being overweight, because you can seriously overweight a boat like this, like very, very, very easily. Especially like, you can eat up the weight, you can eat up your weight limit. That was a really robust boat, by the way. It had an obscene safe working load, but we could have easily exceeded that with everything we threw in if we weren't careful with the raw materials into the boat. It's the most important part when you're trying to accomplish stuff like that. I thought it came out all right. But that was just like one tail, right? Spent about $9 grand in the other boat in raw materials and only about $5,000 in external mods. This is where it shifts. You spent like less than $6 grand, about $5,600 into this boat, but check out the external mods. Because that's where, they really complemented this boat very well, I thought. You got your great from the ground up, really good base. And if you have a really good base, everything you stick on top of it just really accentuates the boat very, very well. Did it for the Blue Diamond, and especially for this boat, it did it. So in this boat, we have an obscenely big accessory list. So we're going to talk about those things. So we had the battery charger. That was about a $470 battery charger. That was Pro Charging Systems, professional series charger that had a specific algorithm that they had in their system. That is the best charger on the market. Because they make specific algorithms to go with each style battery. So you have like lead acid, AGM, lithium. They have a specific algorithm that helps charge those and optimize those batteries so they last the longest. And they have an algorithm that actually backs off right at the very end and makes sure that it has a full charge. It's a way, kind of like how you pour soda into a cup. You have to back it off a little bit so the fizz goes down, and then you top it off. It has that in it. No other battery charging system, to my knowledge, has that. They're pretty specific like that. So that one was in there. That was pretty cool. Thank you, Dual Pro, for that. We also had the Boss system. It's a standalone charger, needs no cord, needs no additional cord. It helps balance your batteries out while you're on the water to get the max amount of range out of the batteries. That was pretty sweet. They had the battery fuel gauge, specifically for lithium batteries. It's a little bit more expensive than the regular fuel gauge because you need to do a few things for lithium. The lithium setup was a little taxing. I'm not gonna lie. It was complicated. The lithium stuff complicated the build substantially. Not only because we had to wait 6 additional weeks for the battery, almost 2 months we waited for those batteries because they were behind shipment because of everything, which pushed us into the heat of the summer, which really screwed up my timeline because I could really only work on it so many days in the searing heat of Lake Havasu summer. Ugh. Which leads me to Dakota lithium batteries. It's about $3 grand for all those batteries. They're 100 amp hour batteries. They're pretty sweet though, I'm not gonna lie. They're nice. He got a CMC power tilt. That thing was pretty sweet. That was $650, brand new. So all that stuff was whatever it was. A lot of that was, you can consider a lot of that maybe raw materials in, because a lot of that stuff just stays in the boat. It's really hard to remove without screwing the boat up. So that was on the line in terms of external mods or actual raw materials. Where you actually get super high-end external mods that can be taken on and off the boat, we start to get into them now. Where he had 2 10-inch Solex, I think they're G3N or G4N Mega DI Mega SI. He had 2 of those. That was like $5 grand right there for those. He had a Garmin EchoMap 106SV that he linked to a Garmin Panoptix LifeScope unit. Then he had the Sea Light pole. That was another a few $100, I think. He had the Humminbird Mega 360 on top of an Ultrex with the iPilot Link. So he had like a full bird setup. He really went full bird there. It was like flying away. And on top of this, he didn't have like the old 2-stroke cheap motor. It was a Yamaha F25, a brand new one. I think low end with nothing in them, they're like $3,400. That's for taxes. When you end up like going and buying a motor, they're gonna hit you with like $400 or $500 in taxes, any state. So like $3,800, just under $4,000 out the door, you're gonna get a motor like that stock. So that one was up. That one had electric start. That one, it was a long shaft. So I'm thinking it costed over $4,000 personally. Then the Alumacraft V14 by itself was like $4,000 plus. I think he might have bought it as a pair. So I think the boat was actually 9 or 10, like 9-ish or 10 grand plus. I think he went and actually bought that boat brand new off a lot and brought it up here. But the total cost for that boat, everything considered, was at 30 grand. 30 grand, $30,000. So I hope he goes and gets it appraised by insurance the way John did for his Blue Diamond boat, and he gets it appraised for that much, because that was an expensive boat. That was an obscenely expensive tiny boat. It was so expensive, I didn't even want to test it out. You know, I have a pretty cocky, ego, I guess. It's not real a good thing. When I think about it, it's probably pretty bad. Because like, he was like, can you do this? Can you do this? I'm like, fuck, I can't do anything. I'll do whatever, I'll do it all. Like, if I can't do it, then what am I? Kind of like, what I think. And then somewhere down the line when I was installing it and I held a 10-inch Solix in my hand, and then I held all this stuff, and I was like, if something happens to these, for me to have to back one of these, like being replaced, that's gonna really, man, I don't have insurance to back this. And then it kind of hits you, I'm doing this out of my garage. I don't have a professional shop that's insured. And so I started kind of flipping out. I was like, man, I like held those things like it was a baby. I was like coddling it and that's another story. I'll talk to you all about the experience of building that boat. But a lot of it was a little nerve-wracking to have that much stuff in your garage. Anyways, that is what I got for you guys. The most ridiculous tiny boats that I have ever had a chance to build, what I would consider as elite level tiny boats all the way. That's what I want to build, elite level boats on the aluminum side. I also have a bunch of other ideas that I want to build for you guys. I mean, we just really beat the elite level aluminum tiny boat to death. I want to start doing some glass boats, some stuff. I want to show you guys some skiffs you can make out of wood and check them out. I want to do a lot of cool things. I want to definitely do a lot of it. And then we'll do more cost videos on those.